The Galactic Empire was an enormous and far-reaching empire spread across countless star systems. With its vast territory, it consisted of many different alien species, each with its own culture and traditions. Yet, despite its advanced technology and wealth, the empire was built on a foundation of cruelty and injustice. Under its rule, a strict hierarchy prevailed, and the lives of countless beings, especially women, were dominated by oppression and control. Women were seen as less important, their rights denied, their roles restricted to the shadows. The Galactic Empire, with all its grandeur, prided itself on order and dominance, but at a cost. Freedom was a luxury they were unwilling to grant to any, especially not humans. It was in this atmosphere of brutal control that the human colonies found themselves struggling to survive, constantly under the watchful eyes of alien overlords. Humans, though resilient, had long been subjected to the whims of the Empire's leaders, forced to obey without question. Yet, there was one human ambassador who had managed to rise above this harsh reality. Her name was Elena Starling, a brilliant diplomat chosen to represent humanity in delicate peace negotiations with the Galactic Empire. Her mind was sharp, her words even sharper, and she had earned the respect of even the Empire's most powerful officials. However, the Empire did not respect Elena for her intelligence or her diplomatic skills. They saw her only as a reminder that humans were becoming too bold, too confident. Elena's negotiations had made significant strides, slowly but surely bringing human colonies and the Empire to a delicate peace. But not all leaders within the Empire were happy with this. There were those who wanted to keep humans in their place, who feared the idea of cooperation and unity among different races. These officials, who controlled the Empire's military and security forces, saw Elena's work as a threat to their control. One fateful day, the Empire decided to strike a blow to break the growing alliance between humans and other alien species. Elena was invited to a public meeting, a gesture that was meant to seem friendly but was, in truth, a trap. The Empire, eager to send a message, made an example out of her in a way that would not be forgotten. As Elena stood before a massive crowd of both alien officials and ordinary citizens, the Galactic Empire did something shocking. They publicly executed her. But it wasn't just any execution. They hung her in the most brutal and humiliating way possible, a chilling display of power meant to break the will of the human colonies. The news spread like wildfire. Every human colony, from the smallest outpost to the most established cities, was thrown into chaos. Elena's death wasn't just the loss of a diplomat, it was a personal insult. It wasn't just a political statement, it was a direct attack on every human who had ever dared to hope for a better future. The message was clear. The Empire was in control, and they would stop at nothing to maintain their power. But what the Galactic Empire failed to realize was the fire they had just ignited. They thought that by crushing one individual, they could silence an entire race. They underestimated the fury and determination that burned deep within the hearts of humanity. Elena Starling was more than a diplomat. She was a symbol. Her death turned her into a martyr, a catalyst for something much greater. Within hours, protests erupted across human colonies. Messages of vengeance spread, and whispers of rebellion grew louder. Humanity would not let this stand. They had suffered long enough. No longer would they bend to the will of their alien rulers. Elena's death had sparked something within every human soul. The undeniable urge to fight back, to show the Empire just how wrong they were about the strength of humanity. And so, as the Empire celebrated their perceived victory, they failed to notice the tide that was slowly turning against them. The loss of one woman would ignite a war that the Galactic Empire could never have prepared for. The death of Elena Starling would be remembered not as the end of humanity's fight, but as the moment when the universe learned what happens when you push humanity too far. The death of Elena Starling sent shockwaves not only through the human colonies but through the entire galaxy. What the Galactic Empire had failed to realize was the sheer strength of the human spirit. The execution, intended to break the will of humanity, had done the opposite. It had forged a fire that could not be extinguished, a fire that burned with rage and the thirst for retribution. Across dozens of human-occupied planets, whispers of resistance began to grow louder. In dark corners, in hidden bases, in the midst of bustling cities, groups of humans who had long struggled under the Empire's boot silently came together. The call to arms was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. At the center of this growing rebellion was one woman, General Elena Vargas. Elena was a seasoned military leader, known across the human colonies for her skill in combat and her unwavering determination. She had fought in multiple conflicts, not just against the Empire, but also against other alien factions that had threatened humanity's survival. Her reputation as a tactician and warrior was unmatched. And now, with the Empire's brutal actions, Elena became more than just a military leader. She became a symbol, a beacon of hope for all those who had endured years of oppression. Elena had seen firsthand what the Empire was capable of. She had lost comrades in countless battles, watched as entire colonies were wiped out under the Empire's oppressive rule. But nothing had prepared her for the loss of Elena Starling, the ambassador, who had fought for peace. The grief of her death ran deep within Elena's heart, but it was her unwavering resolve that stood strong. She knew that this was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for justice. From the command center of the resistance, Elena stood before a large holographic projection of the human colonies. Her expression was serious, but her eyes burned with the fire of vengeance. Her voice rang out clear and strong, reaching the ears of every human, from the smallest colony to the most established military outpost. The Empire believes they have crushed us, Elena said, her words carrying across the galaxy. They believe they have broken us with the death of one woman, but they are wrong. We will not bow to these monsters who think they can control us. We will not cower in fear, and we will not remain silent. Her speech was filled with the raw emotion of a leader who had witnessed the destruction of everything she held dear. We are humanity. We are not their subjects. We are not their slaves. We are the ones who will make them regret the day they hung one of our own. The words sent a wave of energy across the human colonies, a surge of collective strength and unity that could not be ignored. The message was clear. It was no longer just about survival. It was about taking back control, about showing the Empire that humanity could no longer be crushed underfoot. The response from the human race was immediate. Young recruits, eager to fight for their future, enlisted in droves. Veterans who had fought in the shadows for years now found themselves on the front lines of a cause they believed in. From every corner of the human colonies, people joined the rebellion. Soldiers, engineers, doctors, farmers, every human who had ever been subjugated now stood together, unified in their desire to strike back at the Empire. The growing resistance began to form a fleet, a force that would challenge the might of the Empire. Earth, the cradle of humanity, became the heart of this movement. It was here that the rebellion's leadership came together, a place where human ingenuity and innovation were harnessed to develop advanced weapons and ship technology, capable of standing up to the Empire's warships. The human fleet was not just a symbol of resistance. It was becoming a formidable force, one that could bring the fight directly to the heart of the Empire. But the Empire had not forgotten the humans who dared defy them. As the resistance grew, so did the tension in the galaxy. The Empire's leaders watched the humans with a mix of disdain and alarm. They underestimated the fire they had sparked. They believed that a few scattered uprisings would soon be extinguished, but what they failed to see was that the human desire for freedom and vengeance was stronger than anything they had ever faced before. With each passing day, the tone of the rebellion shifted. What began as a movement born of grief and loss was now a force driven by defiance. Humanity was no longer in the shadows. They were ready to fight. The battle for the galaxy had begun. As Elena Vargas gazed out at the vast expanse of stars, she knew one thing. This was just the beginning. The road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but humanity would never again cower in fear. The Empire had made a grave mistake, and now they would pay the price. The human fleet, though smaller than the mighty forces of the Galactic Empire, was now fully prepared for the moment that had been building for months. Under the strategic guidance of General Elena Vargas, the fleet had been outfitted with state-of-the-art weaponry, advanced stealth technology, and the latest in human engineering. They had spent countless hours training, honing their tactics and their resolve. Every ship, every pilot, every crew member knew what was at stake. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was the beginning of the war for humanity's future. The first target was a crucial Empire stronghold located on the outskirts of human space, an isolated military station that served as a key supply and communications hub for the Empire. The station was heavily fortified, its defenses were formidable, and the Empire believed it to be untouchable. The station had been a symbol of the Empire's dominance over human space. But humanity had come prepared, and the first strike was about to be delivered with a precision and ferocity that no one could have predicted. As the human fleet moved into position, the tension was palpable. The commanders, each a seasoned veteran of human conflict, were ready to strike with everything they had. Their ships, sleek and agile, slipped through the blackness of space like shadows, invisible to the Empire's scanners. The element of surprise was their greatest advantage. With a single command from General Vargas, the human fleet erupted into action. The first wave of ships launched a barrage of missiles and plasma charges, aimed directly at the heart of the Empire's defenses. The Empire's military, unprepared for such a swift and relentless attack, scrambled to respond. But the human ships, with their superior maneuvering and advanced technology, outmatched their opponents at every turn. The enemy's shield systems were quickly overwhelmed, and their weapons systems failed to lock onto their targets. The Empire's forces were reeling. The battle was brutal from the very beginning. As the human fleet tore through the Empire's defenses, the Empire's remaining ships scrambled to mount a counterattack. But it was too late. The humans had already gained the upper hand. Human pilots, skilled in both tactics and adaptability, launched daring maneuvers that left the Empire forces baffled. They used their smaller, more agile ships to outmaneuver the larger, bulkier Empire vessels, ducking and weaving through the chaos of space. Each human ship seemed to anticipate the next move of the enemy, hitting their targets with precise, devastating force. In the midst of the battle, a human cruiser led a bold assault on the Empire's flagship. The flagship was considered invulnerable, its sheer size and firepower enough to intimidate any force that dared challenge it. But the humans had planned for this moment. They launched a series of coordinated attacks, striking at weak points in the flagship's hull, creating openings in its defenses. A direct hit on the flagship's engine core sent shockwaves through the entire battlefield. The Empire's leadership, watching from their command posts, could not believe what they were witnessing. The Empire's warlords, used to crushing their enemies with ease, were now scrambling to reorganize their forces. They had underestimated the determination and ruthlessness of the human fleet. They had assumed that humanity would buckle under pressure, that their rebellions would be nothing more than fleeting, easily put down. But the humans had come to this fight with a singular purpose: to strike back, to make the Empire pay for the atrocities they had committed. General Vargas, watching the chaos unfold, felt a surge of pride. This was only the beginning, but humanity had already sent a powerful message. The Empire was not invincible. It had grown complacent, believing that their strength was unchallenged. But now they would know the price of underestimating the human spirit. As the battle raged on, the Empire's forces began to break apart. Their communication lines were cut, their coordination faltered, and the human ships, relentless and precise, picked apart the remnants of their fleet. It was a brutal, unforgiving fight, but the humans were driven by something more than just military tactics. They were driven by the memory of Elena Starling, by the desire to honor her sacrifice, and by the need to prove that humanity would never again be a footnote in the Empire's history. When the smoke of battle cleared, the Empire's stronghold was in ruins. The human fleet had emerged victorious. The Empire's leadership, stunned by the ferocity of the human assault, knew that this was no longer a simple rebellion. It was the dawn of a war that would reshape the galaxy. And in the heart of the human fleet, General Elena Vargas stood tall, knowing that this victory was just the beginning of something much larger. The shockwave of humanity's retaliation had only just begun to ripple across the galaxy, and the Empire would never be the same again. The victory over the Empire's stronghold had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Empire. It was a humiliating blow to their pride, a sign that humanity was no longer a race to be underestimated. Furious at the audacity of the humans, the Empire quickly mobilized to retaliate with overwhelming force. The stakes had never been higher, and the Empire's leadership vowed to crush the rebellion once and for all. Their target was clear: Earth, the human homeworld, the heart of the rebellion. As the Empire's massive fleet gathered in the darkness of space, its ships outnumbering the human forces by a wide margin, the atmosphere on Earth grew tense. The FOI warning signals came too late for many, and soon the skies above Earth were darkened by the arrival of the Empire's forces. Their ships, colossal and imposing, descended like a storm. The Empire unleashed a relentless assault on Earth's defenses, bombing the cities, attacking military outposts, and striking critical infrastructure. For the first time since the rebellion had begun, humanity found itself pushed to the brink. Despite the severe losses, Earth's defenders, led by General Elena Vargas, did not falter. The human fleet, though decimated by the onslaught, fought back with a ferocity the Empire had not anticipated. The battle for Earth had become a desperate struggle, with human forces pushed to their limits. But even in the face of annihilation, the human spirit remained unbroken. General Vargas, having fought in countless battles, refused to let Earth fall. She knew the Empire had come with all the might at their disposal, but she also knew the one thing the Empire had underestimated: the resourcefulness of the human race. It was in times of desperation that humanity was at its most dangerous. As Earth's defenses crumbled under the Empire's assault, Elena saw an opportunity to strike back. She quickly devised a plan, a series of unconventional tactics that would catch the Empire off guard. The Empire, used to fighting large-scale traditional battles, had no way of preparing for what was coming. Elena knew that a direct confrontation with the Empire's overwhelming forces would lead to certain defeat. Instead, she turned to guerrilla warfare, a strategy that utilized hit-and-run tactics, sabotage, and human ingenuity. The humans had never been afraid of fighting in the shadows. They knew how to blend in, how to adapt, and how to turn their environment against a stronger enemy. Elena's forces began to strike where the Empire least expected it: behind enemy lines, in the heart of their supply chains, in their communication networks. Small, highly trained human squads infiltrated Empire bases, planting explosives, disabling weapons systems, and sowing confusion among the enemy ranks. Each strike, though small, was a reminder to the Empire that humanity would not go quietly into the night. The human fleets, though battered, used the terrain of Earth's atmosphere to their advantage. They waged hit-and-run battles in the sky, using their knowledge of Earth's landscapes to evade the Empire's larger ships. What the Empire had failed to account for was the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. The humans weren't confined to the conventional strategies of war. They were resourceful, clever, and relentless. As the battle raged on, the Empire's confidence began to wane. The larger, more powerful ships of the Empire found themselves struggling to deal with the guerrilla tactics. The once mighty fleet that had come to crush the rebellion was now scattered and disoriented. The Empire's leadership had believed they could overwhelm humanity with sheer force, but they had underestimated the resolve and ingenuity of the human race. The battle for Earth was no longer just a defense. It was a statement. Humanity was not going to be crushed under the weight of the Empire's might. Every human, whether soldier or civilian, now understood that this fight was about more than survival. It was about proving that humanity would never again be a pawn in the hands of tyrants. As General Vargas led her forces in a series of daring counterattacks, the Empire began to realize that the price of underestimating humanity was higher than they had ever anticipated. The tides of war were beginning to shift. The humans had turned their desperation into strength, and the Empire was paying the price for their arrogance. It was clear now that the battle for Earth was not going to end with the Empire's victory. The rebellion had only just begun, and the Empire had ignited a fire it could not put out. The war had escalated beyond anyone's expectations. What began as a fight for survival had turned into a full-scale rebellion against the Galactic Empire. With each passing day, humanity's resolve grew stronger. General Elena Vargas led her forces with an unshakable will, but even she knew that the Empire would not fall easily. As the rebellion advanced, new intelligence began to surface. Bits and pieces of information that hinted at a much darker truth behind the Empire's leadership. It was during a high-stakes mission that the humans uncovered something that would shake them to their core. A group of elite human soldiers, under the command of Captain Nia Jensen, had infiltrated one of the Empire's heavily guarded research facilities. Their mission was simple: gather intelligence on the Empire's new weapons and technologies. What they discovered, however, was far from ordinary. Hidden deep within the facility, in cold, sterile labs and underground chambers, were records that revealed the Empire's true nature. The first thing they uncovered was a chilling truth. The Galactic Empire's leadership wasn't solely made up of alien species. No, it was a coalition, one that included traitors from within humanity's own ranks. Humans, it seemed, had been manipulated into collaborating with the Empire. These traitors, lured by promises of power or survival, had sold out their own kind, offering assistance in exchange for favor and status within the Empire's ruling elite. Their actions were not just a betrayal of their species. They were a betrayal of everything humanity stood for. But that was just the beginning. As Captain Jensen's team delved deeper into the Empire's records, they uncovered something far more sinister. The Empire had been conducting unethical experiments on humans, experiments that no one could have ever imagined. Human test subjects, captured from colonies or taken as prisoners of war, had been subjected to horrific procedures. These experiments were designed to create advanced soldiers, to enhance human physiology with dark technologies that merged biology and machine in grotesque ways. The Empire had used humans as nothing more than pawns in their quest for domination. They had treated human lives as expendable, mere tools in the hands of their twisted rulers. The horror of this discovery spread like wildfire through the human ranks. Soldiers, scientists, and civilians alike were left reeling from the truth. For years, they had believed that the Empire's cruelty was directed only at them, but now they understood the full extent of the Empire's malice. The Empire was not just a tyrant in the galaxy, it was a corrupt system built on the exploitation and destruction of humanity itself. The Empire had not only enslaved human colonies, they had been turning humans into weapons, stripping away their humanity in the process. This revelation fueled the fire of vengeance within the hearts of the human resistance. It was no longer just about fighting for freedom, it was about fighting for the very soul of their race. The idea that humans had been used as mere experiments, their bodies and minds manipulated in the name of power, was a betrayal too deep to ignore. The fight had taken on a new urgency, and the stakes had never been higher. The very existence of humanity was at risk, and now there was no choice but to push forward with everything they had. General Vargas, upon hearing of the findings, was resolute. The rebellion had already been about justice, but now it was personal. The Empire had crossed a line, one that could never be forgiven. Humanity was no longer just fighting for survival or freedom. They were fighting to preserve the dignity and integrity of their people. The discovery of the Empire's dark secrets had become the rallying cry of the rebellion, and it echoed through the ranks of every soldier. The fight was no longer just for the future. It was for the future of every human who had been lost to the Empire's cruel experiments. As the human military readied itself for the final push against the Empire, the truth had galvanized their efforts. Each soldier now carried the weight of the knowledge that their fight was more than just a war. It was a war for their identity. The Empire would pay for their betrayal, and humanity would reclaim its place in the galaxy. The final confrontation was drawing closer, and with it, the promise that the Empire would not escape the reckoning they had long deserved. The day had come. After years of conflict, the human fleet gathered for what would be the most significant battle in their history. A full assault on the very heart of the Galactic Empire. The stakes were higher than ever before. The Empire, once thought invincible, now stood on the edge of defeat, and the humans knew this was their last chance to end the war once and for all. General Elena Vargas, who had led her people through countless battles, stood at the helm of the largest human fleet ever assembled. The time for retaliation had arrived. To break the Empire's mighty defenses, the humans had deployed their most powerful weapon, a supercharged pulse cannon, a device that could release an energy burst capable of tearing through the thickest of shields and armor. This experimental weapon had been designed with one purpose in mind: to bring down the Empire's towering capital, to shatter its defenses, and bring the heart of the enemy to its knees. But even with this weapon, the humans knew they were facing an uphill battle. The Empire had already begun fortifying their capital with everything they had: massive fleets, countless warships, and an impenetrable network of defenses. Underestimating the determination of humanity had proven to be a fatal mistake, and the Empire was about to face the consequences. The battle began in space, a chaotic storm of laser fire and explosions. Human fighters, agile and fast, darted through the vast expanse, engaging in intense dogfights with the Empire's elite pilots. The air was thick with the sounds of weapons discharging and shields collapsing as both sides fought for dominance. The human ships, though fewer in number, fought with a fierceness that took the Empire's forces by surprise. The supercharged pulse cannon, mounted on the lead ship, fired a single, devastating shot that tore through the first line of defenses. But the Empire wasn't done. Their counterattack was swift, brutal, and relentless. The humans knew they had to break through to the planet's surface before the Empire could regroup. On the ground, a different kind of battle raged. Human infantry teams launched an all-out assault on the Empire's heavily fortified capital, pushing through layer after layer of alien defenses. Each step forward was earned with blood and sweat, as the human forces made their way to the heart of the Empire. The capital, a sprawling city built into the bones of a massive alien world, was protected by an array of weapons and traps. The streets were lined with alien soldiers, their terrifying technology threatening to wipe out any human who dared to approach. But the humans had no choice. They pressed on, knowing that this was the final push. Failure was not an option. General Vargas, leading the charge herself, fought alongside her soldiers, determined to bring an end to the Empire's reign of terror. She had seen the devastation the Empire had caused, the lives lost, the homes destroyed, and the countless families torn apart. The blood of her people had been spilled for far too long, and now it was time for the humans to make their stand. With a force of will that seemed to defy all odds, she led her team through the Empire's defenses, cutting through enemy lines and infiltrating the heart of the capital. Each moment was a race against time, as the Empire's defenses grew stronger with every passing second. As the humans breached the final layer of the capital's outer walls, the pulse cannon fired again, its beams slicing through the air and striking the core of the Empire's command center. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves through the city, shaking the very foundation of the Empire. The command center, the nerve center of the entire Empire, was in ruins. The Empire's leaders, who had thought themselves untouchable, now found themselves without a stronghold, their power shattered in an instant. The battle had taken its toll on both sides, but the humans, united and unwavering, pushed forward. The Empire, once so sure of its superiority, was now crumbling. General Vargas, standing among the ruins of the Empire's capital, knew that victory was within reach. She had seen humanity fight through adversity time and time again, but this was the culmination of everything they had fought for. The Empire, with all its might and arrogance, was on the brink of collapse. Humanity had won. It was the end of an era and the dawn of a new beginning. The Galactic Empire, once thought unshakable, had been brought to its knees by the indomitable spirit of humanity. The final battle was over. The Empire was defeated. The final confrontation loomed. After countless battles and sacrifices, General Elena Vargas stood at the gates of the Empire's last stronghold, the warlord's personal citadel. The alien warlord, a towering figure of cruel power and unyielding dominance, had been the mastermind behind the Empire's relentless oppression of humanity. For years, he had watched from his throne as his forces tore through human colonies, subjugating and tormenting the human race without remorse. But now, as the last remnants of the Empire lay in ruins around him, the warlord's reign was about to come to a bloody end. Vargas had witnessed unimaginable horrors, and the fires of vengeance burned brightly in her heart. She had fought for humanity's survival, watched her comrades fall, and endured the pain of watching innocent lives crushed under the heel of the Empire. Now, as she faced the creature that had orchestrated it all, the anger and grief boiled over into a burning desire for justice. The final battle was not just for her people, it was personal. It was the culmination of everything humanity had fought for. She was not merely a soldier anymore. She was the embodiment of the Resistance's spirit. The warlord, towering above her, sneered. He was arrogant, thinking his strength and the power of his armies made him invincible. But what he didn't realize was that this was not just another battle. It was the final reckoning. The warlord lunged with incredible force, his massive claws aimed at Vargas. She dodged with the agility and precision of a seasoned warrior, striking back with swift, calculated movements. The clash between the two was intense. Every blow exchanged a testament to their differing worlds. The warlord fought with brute strength, but Vargas fought with purpose. Each strike she landed, each dodge she executed, was infused with the weight of humanity's anger and determination. The battle raged on, the air thick with tension. In every movement, Vargas could feel the weight of every life that had been lost, every family torn apart. She knew that this moment was more than just the fight for her own survival. It was the fight for the future of her people, for the future of humanity. Her every strike was a declaration that the Empire would never again oppress her race. She fought not just for revenge, but for liberation. As the fight neared its climax, the warlord, fatigued and wounded, made one final, desperate move. But in that instant, Vargas saw her opportunity. She drove her blade into his chest with a decisive strike, piercing his heart. The warlord let out a guttural roar, his eyes wide with shock as he realized his downfall. In his final moments, the Empire's terror ended. The creature that had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist was no more. The warlord crumpled to the ground, defeated by the very people he had sought to enslave. With the warlord's death, the last remnants of the empire fell into chaos. His commanders, disorganized and broken, surrendered, recognizing that the foundation of their power had collapsed. The humans, once seen as weak, were now the masters of their own fate, the victors of a war that had cost them everything. The galaxy, forever scarred by the Empire's cruelty, now stood at a crossroads. But humanity had earned its place, and the balance of power in the universe had shifted. In the days that followed, humanity began to rebuild, not as victims, but as equals. The broken world they had known was slowly being restored, and with it came a new understanding. No longer would they be oppressed, no longer would they be looked down upon as lesser beings. Humanity had shown the galaxy its true strength. They had defied the odds, fought for their freedom, and emerged victorious. As General Vargas looked out over the stars, her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and reflection. She had seen humanity rise from the ashes of oppression, and now, they would rise to take their place in the galaxy. The journey had been long and grueling, but it had shaped them into something unbreakable. "Let this be a warning to anyone who dares to oppress us," she said, her voice resolute and firm. "We are humanity. We are not your slaves. We are your reckoning." The galaxy would never forget what had happened. Humanity had taken a stand, and the universe would never again underestimate their strength. They had fought for freedom, for justice, and for their place among the stars. As the human race began its journey toward a new era, the echoes of their triumph would reverberate through the cosmos, a reminder to all that no force, no matter how mighty, could ever truly crush the spirit of humanity.